The cruelest insults are not shouted across the room. Sometimes they are served beside crystal glasses, silver forks, and a family that smiles while trying to erase you. Claire Bennett sat at the center of the Whitmore dining room with her hands folded in her lap, and her wedding ring catching the chandelier light like a small, expensive lie. The table stretched nearly 20 feet, polished dark wood surrounded by people who had inherited confidence the way others inherited old furniture. Every plate was trimmed in gold. Every glass was filled before anyone asked. Outside the tall windows, the Connecticut estate rolled into darkness, all iron gates, clipped hedges and quiet money. Inside, the air smelled of roasted rosemary, white wine sauce, and judgment. Nathan Whitmore sat beside her in a tailored black suit, his shoulders straight, his face calm in that careful way powerful men used when they were one wrong word away from losing control. He was the billionaire chief executive officer of Whitmore Hotels, the man on magazine covers, the man employees stepped aside for in marble lobbies. But tonight, at his mother's table, he looked less like a king and more like a son who had learned too early that love in this house came with conditions. Evelyn Whitmore lifted her wineglass, diamonds flashing at her wrist. Her silver blonde hair was pinned perfectly, her smile even more perfect. "Claire, dear," she said, her voice soft enough to sound polite to anyone not listening closely, "I was told you once worked service events. Is that true?" Conversation thinned. Bradley Whitmore, Nathan's cousin and the family's favorite financial genius, leaned back with a smirk. Claire met Evelyn's eyes. "Yes. I worked private events, hotels, and restaurants." "How practical," Evelyn said. "Then you must feel very comfortable near a dining room." A few relatives laughed under their breath. Nathan's hand tightened around his fork. Claire noticed. She noticed everything. It was the first rule of survival. Evelyn lifted one finger, and a housekeeper stepped forward holding something white and neatly folded. Evelyn placed it on the chair beside Claire. A service apron. Clean. Pressed. Deliberate. "I thought this might help," Evelyn said. "At least wear something that matches your real place in this family." The room went still, but not with shame. With anticipation. They wanted her to break. They wanted the waitress wife to cry, snap, beg Nathan to defend her, prove she did not belong. Claire looked at the apron, then at Nathan. 1 second. 2. His jaw flexed. His eyes darkened. But he said nothing. Because the entire family board was present. Because the quarterly vote was coming. Because in the Whitmore family, silence was often mistaken for strategy. Claire felt something colder than embarrassment settle beneath her ribs. Not surprise. Confirmation. Her phone vibrated once inside the small clutch resting against her knee. She did not reach for it right away. She only breathed slow and even while Evelyn watched for tears. Finally, Claire opened the clutch just enough to glance at the screen. A secure message glowed across it. "Warrant approved. Hold position." Claire closed the clutch, placed both hands back in her lap, and smiled gently at the woman trying to humiliate her. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore," she said. "I have always believed people reveal themselves by how they treat the person they think has the least power." Nathan turned toward her then, a flash of alarm in his eyes, as if he had just realized the woman sitting beside him was not the fragile secret his family believed she was. Claire did not look away from Evelyn. The apron remained untouched. The room waited. And somewhere beyond the guarded gates, the truth was already on its way. 6 months earlier, Claire Bennett was not wearing a diamond ring or sitting beneath a chandelier, while a billionaire family measured her worth. She was carrying a tray of sparkling water through the ballroom of the Whitmore Grand in downtown Boston, wearing a black server vest, comfortable shoes, and the quiet expression of a woman trained to see everything without seeming to look. The hotel lobby outside the ballroom was all marble floors, brass railings, and winter light pouring through 30-foot windows. Inside, investors spoke in low voices beside white orchid arrangements, cameras waited near the press wall, and Nathan Whitmore stood near the stage with a smile that looked convincing only from a distance. Claire noticed him before he noticed her. Everyone did. Nathan had the kind of presence money could polish but not create. Tall, controlled, calm enough to make other people lower their voices. But Claire saw the strain beneath it. The hand smoothing his cuff too often. The glance toward the balcony where Evelyn Whitmore stood with Bradley at her side. The way reporters kept circling the same question without asking it directly. Was Nathan about to lose control of Whitmore Hotels if he failed to give the family a stable public image? Claire already knew more than anyone in that ballroom suspected. Her badge was not in her pocket tonight. Her official title was nowhere on the staffing sheet. To everyone else, she was just another waitress hired for a private hospitality event. That was the point. She moved between tables, collected empty glasses and listened. Not gossip. Patterns. Names. Numbers. The same shell vendor appearing in different conversations. The same Miami resort project mentioned with too much confidence and too little detail. Bradley laughing near the bar as if the entire evening belonged to him. Then the first mistake happened. A nervous junior investor backed into a server near the front table, sending red wine across a stack of printed remarks meant for Nathan's speech. The room tightened. A photographer lifted his camera. Bradley smirked. Evelyn's eyes flashed with irritation. Nathan stepped forward, but Claire was already there. She set down her tray, lifted the stained papers before the wine could spread, and said clearly, "The digital copy is on the podium tablet, page 3. The printed version is not needed." Nathan turned to her. "How do you know that?" Claire met his eyes for half a second. "Because your assistant asked staff not to touch the podium, and people only say that when the important copy is already there." A few people nearby laughed softly, the tension breaking. Claire handed a clean napkin to the embarrassed investor and added, "It happens. Marble floors and crowded rooms are a dangerous combination." No one was humiliated. No headline was born. The evening moved on. But Nathan kept looking at her after that. Later, near the service hallway, he found her refilling a water station. "You handled that well," he said. Claire did not look impressed. "It was spilled wine, Mr. Whitmore. Not a national crisis." His mouth almost curved. "In my family, those are sometimes treated the same." Claire finally looked at him fully. Up close he seemed younger than the photographs, or maybe just more tired. "Then your family needs better problems." The honesty startled him. Most people soften themselves around his name. Claire did not. Before he could answer, reporters surged near the ballroom doors, calling questions about the board vote, his unmarried status, and rumors that Evelyn wanted Bradley positioned as interim chief executive officer. Nathan's expression closed. Claire saw the trap forming. One wrong answer, one clipped phrase, one photograph of him looking cornered, and the family narrative would write itself. So she stepped past him, picked up an untouched tray of water glasses, and walked straight into the reporter's path. "Excuse me," she said with a calm smile. "The guest speaker is moving to the stage, and this hallway needs to stay clear for hotel staff." It was such a simple sentence, delivered with such absolute confidence, that the reporter shifted without thinking. Nathan slipped through the opening she created. As he passed, he glanced back once, not with arrogance but curiosity. Claire lowered her eyes and returned to work, because that was what undercover people did. They became ordinary again. But Nathan Whitmore had already remembered her face, and Claire knew that could become either a problem or an opportunity. 2 days after the gala, Nathan Whitmore sent a card to an address Claire had never given him. That alone told her 2 things. His people were fast, and he was exactly as dangerous as his public image suggested. The black sedan waited outside a modest apartment building in South Boston while Claire stood behind her curtain, holding a cup of coffee gone cold. Her secure phone sat silent on the counter. Her assignment supervisor had already approved the next move with one careful warning. "Stay close, but do not forget why you are there." By 10 o'clock, Claire was walking into Whitmore headquarters in a plain charcoal dress and low heels, her hair pinned back, her face calm. The lobby rose around her in glass, stone, and quiet intimidation. Employees crossed the floor with badges clipped to expensive jackets. Nobody stopped her. Nathan's assistant met her at the elevator and brought her to a private conference room overlooking Boston Harbor. Nathan was already there, standing beside a table with a folder placed neatly in the center. No coffee, no small talk, just a billionaire and a document pretending to be a solution. "Miss Bennett," he said, "thank you for coming." Claire glanced at the folder. People usually say that before asking for something unreasonable. A faint smile touched his mouth. "Then I will be direct. I need a wife." Claire did not move. That is direct. A temporary wife, Nathan said. Legally clean. Publicly convincing. Privately simple. Claire let the silence stretch just long enough to make him feel it. You met me 2 days ago while I was carrying water glasses. I met you 2 days ago while you stopped a press situation my entire communications team failed to control. So hire a better communications team. I need more than optics. He opened the folder and slid a contract toward her. My family board is voting in 6 months. My mother believes my unmarried status makes me unstable. Bradley is using that argument to move against me. If I appear settled, the vote changes. Claire read the first page without touching it. 1 year. Separate bedrooms. Public appearances. Non-disclosure agreement. Financial compensation. Her name printed at the top looked strange beside his, like two strangers forced into the same sentence. Nathan watched her carefully. You would be paid well. Enough to change your life. Claire almost laughed but kept her face still. He thought she needed money. That was useful. People revealed more when they thought they understood your weakness. And what makes you think I would agree? Because you are practical. You do not know me. I know you are calm under pressure, observant, and not impressed by me. Claire looked up. That last one is not usually considered a qualification for marriage. In my world, it might be the rarest one. For 1 second, something honest passed between them, small and inconvenient. Then Claire lowered her eyes back to the contract. This was access. Not just to Nathan, but to Whitmore dinners, private files, board conversations, and the family members her team had been circling for months. Bradley's shell vendors. The Miami Resort Project. The charitable funds that kept appearing in places they should not. Still, she needed one boundary that belonged to her, not the assignment. She took a pen from the table and wrote beneath the final clause. No public humiliation. Nathan leaned forward slightly. That is important to you? Claire thought of every service entrance, every rich guest who called her sweetheart without seeing her face, every room where people mistook humility for permission. It should be important to everyone. Nathan studied the sentence, then signed below it. Agreed. Claire signed her name in clean blue ink. Not because she trusted him. Not because she wanted his money. Because somewhere inside Whitmore Hotels, someone was hiding the truth behind polished doors. And this contract had just opened one. Nathan offered his hand. Claire shook it. His palm was warm, his grip respectful, and for the first time since the assignment began, she wondered whether the man in front of her was part of the corruption or another person trapped inside it. As she left the room, her real phone vibrated inside the hidden pocket of her coat. A message from her supervisor appeared. Marriage cover accepted. Proceed carefully. Claire locked the screen before Nathan could see it. Behind her, the contract remained on the table, the blue ink still drying over the one promise he would one day fail to keep. The wedding happened on a Friday morning in a private courthouse room with cream walls, 1 clerk, 2 signatures, and no music. Claire wore a simple ivory dress Nathan's assistant had sent to her apartment, still sealed in tissue paper when it arrived. Nathan wore a dark suit and the expression of a man finalizing a merger, but when the clerk asked them to exchange rings, his fingers hesitated for half a second against hers. Claire noticed. She always noticed. The ring was elegant, not flashy. A narrow band with a single clean diamond that caught the fluorescent light in a way that made the whole arrangement feel almost sincere. Afterward, Nathan asked if she wanted lunch. Claire said she had errands. He did not ask what kind. That was part of the agreement. Within a week, she moved into the Whitmore estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, a white stone house with iron gates, wide lawns, and hallways so quiet her footsteps seemed impolite. Evelyn Whitmore greeted her in the foyer with a smile that never reached her eyes. Welcome home, Claire, she said, making home sound like a locked room. Bradley stood behind her, checking his watch. So this is the miracle wife. Claire smiled. So I have heard. From that day on, the house tested her in small, elegant ways. A maid placed her breakfast at the far end of the table. A cousin asked whether she had ever owned real silverware. Evelyn corrected the way she held a teacup in front of guests. Someone moved her seating card at a charity luncheon from Nathan's side to a table near vendors and junior staff. Claire never raised her voice. She stored each insult where it belonged. Not in her heart but in her memory. At night, when the house finally settled and Nathan disappeared into calls with board members, Claire worked from the guest suite she had insisted on keeping. The secure phone stayed inside the false bottom of her makeup case. Her small black notebook stayed beneath a folded sweater. In it, she wrote names, times, vendor codes, and phrases that sounded accidental until they repeated. North Harbor Consulting, Eastline Hospitality Solutions, Miami Renovation Reserve, Donor Development Adjustment. Bradley used those words often, always near the bar, always after 2 drinks, always when he believed the waitress wife was too uneducated to understand the shape of a financial cover. But Claire understood shapes. She understood how numbers hid behind nicer numbers. She understood how charity language could make missing money sound generous. One afternoon, while Evelyn hosted a women's luncheon in the sunroom, Claire carried a tray of tea because Evelyn had suggested it would be adorable if Nathan's new wife helped. The guests laughed politely. Claire served without blinking. Near the French doors, Bradley spoke into his phone, his voice low but not low enough. No, the Miami file stays off Nathan's desk until after the vote. Use the foundation channel if you have to. Claire placed a cup in front of Evelyn, then turned smoothly toward the sugar bowl. Her wedding ring clicked softly against the porcelain. That tiny sound made Bradley glance over. For a moment their eyes met. Claire gave him the harmless smile of a woman everyone had already dismissed. He looked away first. That night, Nathan found her in the library, standing on a small ladder, scanning old annual reports lined in leather binders. Most people read novels in here, he said. Claire slid one binder back into place. Most people in this house lie better than they read. Nathan should have laughed. He did not. He stepped closer, looking at the report in her hand. You spend a lot of time noticing my family. Your family spends a lot of time making sure I know where they think I belong. His face tightened. I am sorry. Do not be sorry in private if you plan to be silent in public. The words landed between them, quiet and sharp. Nathan looked away toward the dark windows, and Claire saw the old training in him. The instinct to survive Evelyn's house by choosing battles carefully and losing pieces of himself each time. For a second she almost felt sorry for him. Then her secure phone vibrated upstairs, hidden and waiting, and she remembered why she was really there. The Whitmores thought they had invited a powerless woman into their home. They had no idea she was learning every door. The first time Claire made the Whitmore dining room fall silent, she did it without raising her voice. It happened during a private investor dinner on a rainy Tuesday evening. The kind of event Evelyn loved because every guest arrived wealthy, polished, and useful. The long table was dressed in cream linen and low candles. Crystal glasses caught the firelight. Outside, rain tapped against the tall windows of the Greenwich estate, soft and steady, while inside every conversation sounded rehearsed. Claire wore a midnight blue dress Nathan had chosen because Evelyn said it was less distracting than whatever she usually wears. She accepted the insult with a smile and chose her own earrings, small pearls that had belonged to her mother. Nathan noticed them when she entered the room. He looked as if he wanted to say something kind, but Bradley clapped him on the shoulder before he could. There he is, Bradley said. The husband of the year. Evelyn's eyes moved over Claire from head to toe. Claire, darling, you are learning. That shade is almost appropriate. Claire took her seat beside Nathan. How generous of you to say almost. A few guests hid smiles behind their glasses. Evelyn's expression cooled. Dinner began with polite questions that were not polite at all. Where had Claire gone to college? Had she studied hospitality formally or simply picked it up on the job? Did she find it difficult adjusting from rented apartments to a real family estate? Claire answered each question with calm precision, never giving them the satisfaction of seeing a wound. Nathan grew quieter with every insult. His hand rested beside his plate, close to hers but not touching. She knew he was trying. She also knew trying silently did not count when someone was being diminished out loud. Then Bradley stood to present the Miami resort expansion, a glossy folder in one hand and a smile made for donors. He spoke about projected revenue, community benefits, and a charitable workforce training partnership funded through the Whitmore Foundation. His numbers sounded smooth. Too smooth. Claire listened while cutting a small piece of salmon she did not want. The figure came near the end. $14.8 million allocated for local training facilities. Her fork paused. She had seen that amount before in the old annual reports, except there it had been listed as $12.4 million, then again under a different vendor for $2.4 million more. Same money, different costume. An investor at the far end nodded approvingly. Impressive work, Bradley. Evelyn beamed as if he had built the city himself. Nathan looked distracted, his attention split between Bradley and a message on his phone. Claire placed her fork down gently. I am sorry, she said. Every face turned toward her. Bradley blinked. Pardon. Claire kept her tone light. The training allocation. Did you say $14.8 million? Bradley smiled with patient condescension. Yes, Claire. Big projects use big numbers. Evelyn gave a delicate laugh. Let us not turn dinner into math class. Claire looked at Bradley, not Evelyn. Of course. I only ask because the partnership was described last year as $12.4 million, and the remaining $2.4 million appears to have been categorized under Eastline Hospitality Solutions as consulting support. If both are included in tonight's figure, the public summary may accidentally double count the same allocation. Silence. Not soft silence. Heavy silence. One guest slowly lowered his wineglass. Nathan turned fully toward her now. Bradley's smile remained, but the skin around his eyes tightened. That is a very specific misunderstanding, he said. Claire folded her hands. Then I am sure it is easy to clarify. Evelyn's voice sharpened beneath the silk. Claire dear, perhaps financial structure is not the best topic for someone with your background. Claire smiled. My background taught me to read what people hope I will not. Nathan inhaled quietly. This time he did not stay silent. Bradley, he said, calm but firm, send me the full Miami file tonight. Bradley looked at him. Nathan, we can handle that tomorrow. Tonight. The word settled over the table like a door closing. Evelyn's face went still. Claire looked down at her plate, but inside she felt the first real crack open in the Whitmore wall. Nathan had chosen to speak. Not loudly, not perfectly, but publicly. Later, as guests moved toward coffee in the drawing room, he found her near the hallway mirror, removing one pearl earring with steady fingers. You knew that number before dinner, he said. Claire met his eyes in the reflection. I remembered it. Why? Because people hide truth in places they assume no one like me will look. Nathan stepped closer, not enough to crowd her, only enough to lower his voice. And what else have you seen? Her secure phone vibrated once upstairs, a silent reminder that trust was not the same as clearance. Claire slipped the earring into her palm and turned to face him. Enough to know your family is not afraid of me because I embarrassed them. Then why? He asked. Claire glanced toward the dining room where Bradley was laughing too loudly, and Evelyn was watching them with a stillness that felt like a warning. Because I am starting to understand them. The night after the investor dinner, Nathan found Claire on the back terrace of the Greenwich estate with her heels in one hand and the cold stone beneath her bare feet. The rain had stopped, leaving the garden shining under low path lights, every hedge trimmed into perfect obedience. Inside, the Whitmore family still laughed over brandy and coffee as if nothing had shifted, but outside the air felt honest. Claire stood near the railing, looking across the dark lawn toward the iron gates, her midnight blue dress moving slightly in the wind. Nathan stopped a few feet behind her. You should be inside, he said. Claire did not turn. So Evelyn can ask whether I know which spoon is for dessert? I am sorry. You said that before. He looked down. I know. Claire slipped one heel back on, then the other, wincing so briefly most people would have missed it. Nathan did not. Your feet hurt. That is what happens when shoes are chosen by people who only care how a woman looks standing still. He almost smiled, but the shame in his face stopped it. I should have spoken sooner tonight. Claire finally turned toward him. The terrace light softened the sharp lines of his face, making him look less like the man from magazine covers and more like someone who had been tired for years. Yes, she said. No cruelty. No comfort. Just truth. Nathan accepted it like he deserved the weight. My family does not argue to understand. They argue to win. Growing up here taught me that silence was sometimes the only way to leave the room with something left of yourself. Claire's expression changed, Not soft exactly, but less guarded. That explains your silence. It does not excuse it. I know. The answer came faster this time. He stepped closer, still leaving space between them. When you corrected Bradley, I realized something. Everyone in that room has been teaching me to protect the Whitmore name. You were the first person who made me wonder whether the name deserves protection at all. Claire looked away toward the windows. Inside, Bradley was visible near the fireplace, laughing too loudly, one hand on Evelyn's shoulder like they were already celebrating a victory only they understood. Her secure phone was upstairs, hidden and waiting. Her assignment was still alive. Her evidence was growing. And Nathan was standing in front of her, asking questions that made the line between target and man dangerously thin. "Do not make me into your conscience," she said quietly. "I cannot carry that for you. I am not asking you to." "Then what are you asking?" Nathan looked at her ring, then at her face. "For one honest answer. Are you in danger because of something my family is doing?" The question caught her off guard. For half a second, the investigator in her calculated risk. The wife in her, the part she kept pretending was only a role, wanted to tell him everything. Miami files. Foundation channels. Shell vendors. Bradley's phone call. But the warrant was not ready yet. The case was bigger than Nathan's guilt. One wrong confession could warn the people she was there to expose. So Claire chose the only answer she could give without lying. "I am in danger when people decide my silence is more useful than my truth." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Then I will not be silent next time." Claire studied him. "Do not promise that because you feel guilty tonight." "I am not." "Then promise it when it costs you something." The wind moved through the garden. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Nathan removed his suit jacket and held it out. Claire looked at it, then at him. "This is not necessary." "I know." He did not step closer. He simply waited, letting the choice be hers. After a moment, she took the jacket and placed it around her shoulders. It was warm from him, carrying a faint trace of cedar and rain. Too intimate for a contract. Too gentle for a strategy. Claire looked down at the wedding ring on her hand, the symbol of an agreement built on secrets, and felt the first real ache of wanting something she had no right to want. Nathan's voice dropped. "When this is over, whatever this is, I would like to know who you are when you are not protecting yourself." Claire swallowed, looking toward the iron gates where darkness pressed against the estate. "And I would like to know who you are when you are not protecting them." Behind the glass, Evelyn turned her head toward the terrace. She saw Nathan's jacket on Claire's shoulders. She saw the space between them closing without either of them touching. And in that quiet moment, while Nathan and Claire stood under the soft garden lights believing they had found a fragile piece of truth, Evelyn Whitmore decided the waitress wife had become far too dangerous to remain at the table. Evelyn Whitmore did not attack people directly. She arranged rooms, invitations, whispers, and timing until the person she wanted gone appeared to remove herself. After the night on the terrace, the estate changed around Claire in ways so small they would have sounded foolish if she named them out loud. Her breakfast was delivered cold. Her seating cards vanished. A guest bathroom she used suddenly locked from the outside hallway. Two maids stopped speaking when she entered the laundry room. Bradley watched her now with a brightness that did not belong to curiosity. It belonged to calculation. Claire kept moving through the house with the same calm face, but upstairs, behind the guest suite door, her black notebook filled faster. Evelyn's private investigator followed her to a federal building in Boston on a gray morning and photographed her entering through a side entrance. He missed the badge she scanned because Claire kept it shielded beneath her coat. He missed the supervisor who met her inside. He missed the file stamped with Whitmore Foundation and the warrant application waiting for final review. But he captured enough for Evelyn to build a story. By Friday afternoon, every relative had been invited to a family unity dinner. 3 board members were added at the last minute. So was a lifestyle columnist who owed Evelyn favors and called it a social visit. Claire knew what it meant the second she saw the expanded seating chart on the foyer table. This was not dinner. This was a stage. Her secure phone vibrated while she was changing into a simple navy dress. The message was short. Warrant pending. Do not disclose. Maintain cover. Claire closed her eyes for 1 second, then locked the phone and slipped it into the hidden pocket of her clutch. Downstairs, the dining room glowed with candlelight and old money. The same long table. The same crystal. The same family portraits staring down from the walls, as if they were judging anyone who had not been born beneath them. Nathan stood near the fireplace, speaking with a board member, but his eyes found Claire the moment she entered. Something passed between them, a question, a warning, maybe the memory of his promise on the terrace. Then Evelyn rose from her seat with that perfect smile. "Claire, how lovely. We were just discussing loyalty." Bradley pulled out a chair for her with exaggerated courtesy. "A subject close to your heart, I am sure." Claire sat beside Nathan. He leaned slightly toward her. "What is going on?" She kept her eyes on the folded napkin in front of her. "Your mother prepared a performance." Before Nathan could answer, Evelyn lifted her glass. "Before dinner, I think we should clear the air. Family cannot survive secrets, and my son has been generous enough to bring a stranger into our name." Nathan's expression hardened. "Mother." Evelyn ignored him. A manila envelope appeared in her hand, passed smoothly by Bradley. She opened it and placed several photographs on the table. Claire walking into the federal building. Claire speaking to a man in a government lobby. Claire using a phone Nathan had never seen. A murmur moved around the room. The lifestyle columnist leaned closer, eyes bright. Evelyn's voice softened into something almost pitying. "My dear, perhaps you can explain why a former waitress who married my son for convenience has been meeting secretly with federal officials under a name not listed in our family records." Nathan turned to Claire. Not with accusation at first. With shock. The kind that hurt more because it came from someone who had started to care. Bradley added. "Or perhaps she has been selling family information to someone who enjoys watching Whitmore hotels suffer." Claire felt every eye press against her skin. The contract sat in her memory like a blue ink wound. No public humiliation. Nathan stood slowly. "Enough." Evelyn looked pleased, as if she had expected him to defend the wrong thing. "No, Nathan. Ask her. Ask your wife who she really works for." Claire's phone vibrated once in her clutch. She did not look. "Not yet." Nathan faced her. His voice lower now, unsteady beneath the control. "Claire, tell me this is not what it looks like." She held his gaze. "It is not what it looks like." "Then explain it." Around them the room waited greedily. Claire wanted to. She wanted to tell him everything. But the warrant was not confirmed. The operation was still moving. If she spoke too soon, Bradley could destroy records, call attorneys, shift accounts, vanish behind the very wealth she had been sent to investigate. So she said the only safe truth left. "I cannot explain it yet." Nathan flinched as if silence had answered for her. Evelyn placed the white service apron from the first dinner on the table, folded neatly beside Claire's plate. "Then perhaps you should wear the one honest thing you brought into this family." This time Nathan did not stay silent. "Do not speak to my wife that way." Claire looked at him, and for one fragile second, hope moved through her. Then Bradley slid one final document across the table. A fake transfer summary bearing Claire's alias, connected to a rival hotel group. Nathan stared at it. The hope dimmed. Claire saw fear return, not fear of her, but fear of losing the company before he understood the truth. Her clutch vibrated again. She opened it beneath the table. The secure message glowed on the screen. "Warrant approved. Hold position." Claire closed her fingers around the phone, lifted her chin, and looked straight at Evelyn. The performance was almost over. Claire Bennett had imagined this moment 100 times during training, but never with a wedding ring on her finger, and the man she had almost trusted standing beside her. The dining room seemed frozen around the white apron, the fake transfer summary, and Evelyn Whitmore's satisfied smile. Crystal glasses caught the candlelight. The family portraits watched from the walls. Bradley leaned back as if the case against Claire had already been decided, as if a woman invited through the service entrance could never understand the door she had quietly unlocked. Nathan stared at the document on the table, his face pulled between loyalty and disbelief. Claire gave him one last chance with her eyes. Not to save her. She did not need saving. Only to choose not to help them bury her. "Claire," he said, voice low. "Who do you work for?" The room leaned in. Evelyn's smile sharpened. Claire rose from her chair slowly, leaving the apron untouched beside her plate. I work for the United States Department of the Treasury, she said. Silence dropped so hard it felt physical. The lifestyle columnist's pen stopped moving. A board member coughed once and then went still. Bradley's smirk disappeared first. Evelyn blinked, not confused but offended, as if truth had entered her dining room without permission. Nathan's lips parted slightly, but no words came. Claire reached into her clutch and removed the secure phone. She unlocked it with her thumb, turned the screen outward, and showed the digital credentials that had never belonged to the waitress they thought they had humiliated. My name is Claire Bennett. I am a federal financial investigator assigned to a joint review of Whitmore Foundation transfers, vendor fraud, and possible misuse of charitable funds connected to the Miami resort expansion. Evelyn stood so quickly her chair shifted against the rug. This is absurd. Claire looked at her. No, Mrs. Whitmore. What is absurd is placing a service apron in front of the person documenting your family's shell vendors. Bradley pushed back from the table. You have no authority to be here. The front doors opened before Claire could answer. Not loudly, not dramatically, just the clean sound of a house losing control. 2 federal attorneys entered with a team of investigators in dark coats, followed by Nathan's own head of compliance, pale and silent. No one shouted. No one rushed. Papers were presented. Names were confirmed. The authority in the room shifted with quiet precision. One attorney addressed Nathan first. Mr. Whitmore, we have a court-authorized warrant for financial records relating to North Harbor Consulting, Eastline Hospitality Solutions, and the Whitmore Foundation Miami training allocation. Nathan looked at Claire, then at Bradley. The puzzle rearranged itself across his face. Her questions, the annual reports, the phone she would not explain, the way Bradley kept talking over numbers, the way Evelyn kept trying to make Claire look small. Claire placed the secure phone on the table beside the fake transfer summary. The document Bradley gave you is fabricated, she said. The alias is mine, but the transfer trail was created 3 days ago from an internal Whitmore administrative account. The metadata links back to Bradley's office terminal. Bradley's face flushed. That is impossible. It would have been, Claire said, if your assistant had not reused the same access token on the Miami vendor folders. One of the investigators opened a tablet and displayed transaction maps. Payments split across consulting firms, routed through charity accounts, then redirected into development reserves controlled by Bradley's private holding company. Numbers appeared where insults had been. Dates appeared where assumptions had stood. Evelyn sat down slowly, her hand still resting near the stem of her wine glass. Nathan, she said, quieter now, do not let them turn this family into a spectacle. Nathan looked at his mother. For 34 years, that voice had trained him to protect the name first and ask moral questions later. Then he looked at Claire, still standing straight in the navy dress his family had mocked, the apron untouched, the ring on her hand shining like a question he no longer deserved to answer. No, he said. The word was not loud, but it changed the room. If the records prove this, Whitmore Hotels will cooperate fully. Evelyn's face hardened. You would choose her over your own blood? Nathan's eyes did not move from Claire. I am choosing what is right over what has been hidden. Claire felt the words land, but she did not let them heal too quickly. The wound was still there. His hesitation, his doubt, the moment he had almost let the room decide who she was. An investigator approached Bradley with a request for his devices. Bradley stood stiffly, trying to look insulted rather than afraid. The columnist slipped her notebook into her purse, suddenly understanding she had not been invited to witness Claire's humiliation, but the collapse of the Whitmore performance. Claire finally picked up the white apron from beside her plate. She folded it once carefully and set it in the center of the table. You were right about one thing, she told Evelyn. People should know their place. Mine was never beneath you. It was here watching what you thought no one would see. Nathan took one step toward her. Claire, I am sorry. She looked at him and the whole room seemed to disappear for a second, leaving only the contract, the terrace, the promise, and the truth. Not yet, she said softly. First, help them find every file. By sunrise, the Whitmore estate no longer felt untouchable. Investigators had taken boxes of files from Bradley's office, copied records from the private servers, and sealed the foundation archives that Evelyn once treated like a family trophy room. No one was dragged through the halls. No one needed to be. The quiet was worse. It was the sound of polished power learning that paperwork could testify. Claire stood in the front foyer with her clutch in one hand and Nathan's jacket still folded over her arm. The wedding ring remained on her finger, but it felt different now, heavier, no longer a disguise and not yet a promise. Nathan walked down the staircase slowly, his shirt sleeves rolled to his forearms, his face pale from a night without sleep. "Bradley's attorneys are here," he said. "Compliance found 3 more vendor accounts tied to the Miami project." Claire nodded. "Send everything through the federal team. Do not let your family attorneys filter it first." "I already told them that." She looked at him, then really looked. The man who once treated silence like strategy had spent the night opening locked doors, giving investigators access codes, and overruling every advisor who told him to protect the Whitmore name. It did not erase what happened at dinner, but it mattered. Evelyn appeared at the top of the stairs in a cream robe, looking smaller without guests, diamonds, and an audience. "Nathan," she said, voice tight, "you are making a mistake that will stain this family for generations." Nathan turned to her. For once, he did not look like a son waiting for permission. "No, Mother." The stain was already there. Claire only turned on the light. Evelyn's mouth opened, but no answer came. Claire walked past the table where the white apron still lay folded in the center, untouched since she had placed it there. She picked it up, not with shame but with care, and set it on the silver tray beside the door. "Keep it," she said to Evelyn. "You may need a reminder that work is not disgraceful. Cruelty is." Then Claire left the estate. Not because she was defeated, because the assignment was over, and staying would make forgiveness too easy for a man who needed to rebuild more than a marriage. 3 months later, Whitmore Hotels announced a full restructuring. Bradley was removed from the board and referred for federal review. Evelyn resigned from the foundation. Nathan created an independent ethics office with employee protection rules, public vendor audits, and a relief fund for hotel workers who had been underpaid or silenced by management. He did not announce Claire's name in the press release. He sent her the draft first and wrote one sentence at the bottom: "I am trying to prove it without needing you at my table." Claire read it in a small diner in Boston, the same place where Nathan had once seen her eating after a late shift, back when he thought she was only a waitress and she thought he was only a target. The bell over the door rang. Nathan stepped inside carrying no roses, no jewelry, no grand gesture designed for cameras. Just a worn folder and the folded white apron, cleaned and pressed, with the marriage contract torn neatly in half inside the folder. He sat across from her, careful, uncertain. "I spent my whole life protecting the family name," he said. "You taught me to protect what is right." Claire stirred her coffee once. "And if I never come back to that house? Then I will still keep doing it." That answer was the first one that felt real. 1 year later, the Whitmore Foundation reopened under a new name and a new board, focused on protecting hospitality workers, funding legal aid, and exposing wage theft in luxury hotels. Claire attended the gala in a simple navy dress, not as Nathan's convenient wife, not as a hidden investigator, and not as the woman Evelyn had tried to shame. She came as herself. When she entered the ballroom, people stood. Not because of the ring on her finger, not because of Nathan's last name, but because every person in that room knew she had walked into a house built on silence and left with the truth. Nathan waited near the stage, eyes steady, no longer asking her to belong to his world before he changed it. Claire reached him, looked at the crowd, then at the man who had finally learned that love without courage was only decoration. She did not say yes to everything. Not yet. But when he offered his hand, she took it, and this time, no one at the table dared decide where she belonged.